1946, Chicago, Illinois. A black man is being dragged out of his South Side home by 4 white gangsters in broad daylight. They throw him in the back of a Lincoln. They hold him for a week. His family pays $100,000 in ransom to get him back alive. Now stop. Most stories about black crime figures end here. The kidnapping, the federal indictment, the decades in a federal prison cell. This one doesn't. 1 week later, that man walks into a meeting with the Italian mafia. He tells them he is retiring. He tells them he is moving to Mexico. And he tells them they are going to pay him $200,000 a year for the rest of his life to stay gone. The Italian mafia agreed to his terms. His name was Edward Jones, and he is one of 6 men on this list. 6 black men who built fortunes the government could not touch. 6 black men who operated in plain sight for decades. 6 black men who walked away rich, walked away free, and took the secrets of how they did it to their graves. They did not run heroin. They did not run crack. They did not run the streets with machine guns and body counts. They ran something older, something bigger, something so profitable that when state governments finally figured out what they had built, they did not prosecute them. They copied them. Every state lottery in America today, every Mega Millions ticket, every Powerball drawing, every scratch-off at the gas station, all of it, built on a game that 6 black men perfected before the federal government even knew what it was. These are their names. These are their stories. And by the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly how they did it. Number 6, John Mushmouth Johnson. Start with the man who started it all. Chicago, 1897, the South Side. A black man named John Mushmouth Johnson owns the most popular gambling house in the entire city. The Chicago Tribune says so on its front page. Not the most popular black gambling house, the most popular gambling house in Chicago. Period. His doors are open to everyone. Black, white, Chinese, Italian. He does not care about your skin. He cares about your money. Think about that for a second. This is 1897. Jim Crow is the law. Segregation is everywhere. Black men are getting lynched in the South for looking at white women the wrong way. And in Chicago, a black man is running the biggest gambling hall in the city. White millionaires are lining up outside his doors, waiting to get in. How did he do it? He paid every cop, every politician, every ward boss. Mushmouth Johnson understood something before anyone else in Chicago did. Cash is the only color that matters to a crooked man. He runs the operation for 17 straight years. He builds a fortune. He opens Dreamland Cafe, one of the first black music venues in Chicago. He invests in real estate across the South Side, and in 1907, he dies. Cause of death? Kidney failure. Not a bullet, not a prison cell, not a federal indictment. His kidneys gave out. His sister inherits his fortune. She marries a man named Jesse Binga. Binga uses Mushmouth's gambling money to open one of the first black-owned banks in American history. A black gambling empire became a black banking empire, inherited through marriage. The feds did not know. The feds still do not know. That is how this game started. Number 5, Fanny Davis. Now jump forward 60 years. Detroit, 1958. A black woman from Nashville steps off a train with her husband and their children. Her husband cannot find work that pays the bills, so she opens up a numbers operation out of her kitchen. Her name is Fanny Davis. She is not a kingpin. She does not have an army of runners. She does not have a fleet of Cadillacs. She does not have a jazz club, a nightclub, or a boxing stable. She has a phone, she has a ledger, she has a Bible on her kitchen table, and a drawer full of cash next to the refrigerator. And for the next 30 years, she runs numbers out of that house. 30 years. Read that again. 30 years of taking bets. 30 years of paying out winners. 30 years of handling cash every single day. Her kids go to private school on that money. Her family takes vacations on that money. Her house gets renovated on that money. From 1958 to the late 1980s, she was never arrested, not once, not a single overnight stay in a Detroit jail, not a single appearance in a federal courthouse, not a single agent ever knocked on her front door. How? Because she understood something most men in this game never figured out. Smaller is smarter. Quieter is richer. Invisible is forever. She never expanded. She never tried to take over the city. She never competed with the big operators. She stayed small enough that the feds had no reason to notice her. And for 30 years, the feds did not. She died free. She died rich. Her daughter, Bridget Davis, is now a professor in New York City. In 2019, she wrote a book about her mother. The book is called The World According to Fanny Davis. It is being developed into a movie. The feds still do not know how much money Fanny Davis actually made. Fanny Davis never told anyone. Number 4, John Roxboro. Pay close attention to this one. Detroit, 1934. A black numbers king named John Roxboro meets a 20-year-old black heavyweight boxer from Alabama. The kid has raw power, but no discipline. No training, no team, nothing but fists and hunger. Roxboro looks at the kid and sees something that every boxing manager in America has missed. Roxboro signs him. Roxboro pays for his training. Roxboro hires his coaches. 2 years later, that kid knocks out Primo Carnera in 6 rounds. Then he knocks out Max Baer in 4 rounds. That kid becomes the heavyweight champion of the world. That kid's name is Joe Louis, the Brown Bomber, the most famous black American alive in the late 1930s, the man who knocked out Max Schmeling in front of Adolf Hitler's propaganda team, the symbol of black American excellence for an entire generation, and the man who made Joe Louis's career possible, who paid for his training, who protected his money. A Detroit numbers king, John Roxboro financed the destruction of Nazi sports propaganda with illegal lottery money. Let that sink in for a second. Every punch Joe Louis ever threw in the ring was paid for by black Detroit betting on numbers. Roxboro eventually did a short prison stretch for running policy. But by then, Joe Louis had made him respectable. Senators shook his hand. The president invited him to the White House. He transitioned out of the streets completely. He spent the rest of his life as a businessman and a philanthropist. He died respected. He died free. The federal government never touched his real empire. They prosecuted him for numbers. They never understood that the numbers built a heavyweight champion. Number 3, Eddie Windgate. Detroit again, the 1950s. But this time the game is different. The Italian mafia has seen what the Jones brothers did in Chicago. They know black numbers operations are the most profitable illegal business in America. They want in. Detroit has its own mafia, the Detroit Partnership. They try to muscle in on the Paradise Valley numbers racket. They pick the wrong black man. His name is Eddie Windgate. He used to work on the Ford assembly line. Now he runs Detroit numbers, and he is not intimidated by Italian gangsters. The Detroit Partnership sends men to his clubs. Windgate sends them home. The Detroit Partnership threatens his runners. Windgate protects his runners. The Detroit Partnership tries to shake down his operation. Windgate refuses to pay a single dollar. And then something happens that does not happen in the history of American organized crime. The Italian mafia backs down. Eddie Windgate personally intimidates Italian mafia figures out of the Detroit numbers trade, a black numbers king, bullying the Italian mob out of his city. He runs Detroit numbers for over 2 decades. No federal kingpin indictment, no RICO case, no decades in federal prison. He invests in nightclubs and hotels. He buys a record label called Golden World Records. That label records early Motown-era music. It is eventually sold to Berry Gordy and absorbed into the Motown empire. The feds finally catch up to Windgate in 1977, but not for being a kingpin and not for running numbers. It is for tax evasion. It is the same charge that took down Al Capone, because it was the only thing they could pin on him. He serves his time. He comes home. He dies in 1990 at 73 years old, wealthy and free. Until his dying day, he said the federal government had been unfair to the black community. He had the bank accounts to prove it. Number 2, Gus Greenley, Pittsburgh, 1948. The city of Pittsburgh holds its annual Businessman of the Year ceremony. The mayor shakes the hand of the winner. Photographers take pictures. Newspapers run the story. The winner that year is a 6'3" black man named William Augustus Greenley. Gus Greenley, Businessman of the Year. Pittsburgh does not know one detail. Gus Greenley is the biggest numbers king in western Pennsylvania. Here is how he did it. Greenley rolled into Pittsburgh on a freight car in 1916. World War I veteran, machine gunner at the Battle of Verdun, took shrapnel in France, came home to America and could not find a job that paid. He started driving a taxi. He started running bootleg whiskey in the trunk of that taxi. By 1926, he and his partner, Woogie Harris, had introduced the numbers game to western Pennsylvania. By 1930, the Pittsburgh Courier was calling them the Negro overlords of the Hill District. Then Greenley did something no black crime boss had ever done before him. He got famous. He opened the Crawford Grill, the most legendary jazz club in Pittsburgh history. Louis Armstrong performed there. Billie Holiday, Duke Ellington, Ella Fitzgerald, Count Basie, Sarah Vaughan. He bought a stable of boxers. One of them, John Henry Lewis, became the first black light heavyweight champion of the world. And then he bought a Negro League baseball team, the Pittsburgh Crawfords. He signed Satchel Paige. He signed Josh Gibson. He signed Cool Papa Bell. He signed Judy Johnson, 5 future Baseball Hall of Famers, on one team, all paid with numbers money. In 1933, he built Greenlee Field, a 7,500-seat baseball stadium, one of the only black-built and black-owned stadiums in American history. All paid with numbers money. The federal government watched him for decades. They taxed him when they could. They harassed him when they could. They never convicted him of being a kingpin. He died of a stroke in 1952. Natural causes. Free man, buried in Pittsburgh's Allegheny Cemetery with full honors. Businessman of the Year, jazz club owner, Negro League team owner, the biggest black numbers king east of Chicago. The feds never got him. Number 1, Edward Jones. Back to the top of this video. Back to the man who got paid by the Italian mafia to retire. His name is Edward Jones, and his story is the blueprint every other man on this list followed. Chicago, 1930. A black man sits in the back of a family tailor shop writing numbers on small slips of paper. By 1938, he was making $10,000 a day. By 1946, he and his brothers George and McKissick were worth $25 million. Cash in 25 different banks, real estate in Europe, real estate in Mexico, real estate across the United States. investments in America's biggest corporations. They opened the Ben Franklin department store on 47th Street in Chicago. It was the only black-owned department store in the entire world. Quincy Jones grew up around these men. He called Ed Jones the Robin Hood of Chicago. Then the Italian outfit moved in. Sam Giancana had shared a prison cell with Ed Jones during a short tax evasion stretch. Inside that cell, Giancana learned exactly how much money the Jones brothers were making. Giancana told Tony Accardo. Accardo told the outfit. The outfit made a decision. They wanted the Jones brothers' empire. So they kidnapped Ed Jones off a Chicago street in broad daylight. They held him for a week. The Jones family paid $100,000 in ransom. Ed Jones walked out of that kidnapping alive, shaken but alive. And this is where Ed Jones made a decision that no other black crime figure in American history has ever made. He quit. But he quit on his own terms. He sat down with the Italian mafia. He negotiated the terms. He would leave Chicago forever. He would move to his estate in Mexico. He would never run policy again. And the Italian mafia would pay him $200,000 a year for the rest of his life to stay retired. $200,000 in 1946 money. That is the equivalent of over $3 million a year today. The Italian mafia agreed. The Jones family boarded the Golden State Limited train. They rode to Texas, they crossed the border, they disappeared into Mexico. Ed Jones lived out the rest of his life on a ranch south of the border. He watched his children grow up. He watched his grandchildren grow up. He died wealthy, free, and on his own terms. In 2022, his granddaughter, Harriet Marin Jones, made a documentary about him. It is called King of Kings: Chasing Edward Jones. Quincy Jones appears in the film. He calls Ed Jones the Robin Hood of Chicago. The federal government never caught Ed Jones. The federal government never broke the mafia agreement. The federal government never got a single dollar of the Jones brothers' fortune back. He died free. He died rich. And he got the Italian mafia to pay him for it. 6 names, 6 black Americans, 6 fortunes built in the shadows of a country that refused to let black people into legitimate banking, legitimate insurance, legitimate business. Mushmouth Johnson, the first gambling king of Chicago, died of kidney failure in 1907. Fanny Davis, 30 years of numbers in Detroit, never arrested once. John Roxboro made Joe Louis and died respected. Eddie Windgate pushed the Italian mafia out of Detroit and died free. Gus Greenley, a prominent businessman, owned Satchel Paige. Ed Jones was paid by the mafia to retire, and he died in Mexico. Here is what the history books will not tell you. When state governments legalized the lottery, starting in the 1960s, they did not invent anything. They copied these men. Every 3-digit daily drawing, every runner system, every payout structure, every single piece of the modern state lottery industry was built on a game that black Americans had been running for 70 years. The state governments took the game, legalized it, taxed it, then drove every last one of the black kings out of business with prosecutions and crackdowns. And then they pretended they had invented it. They did not. These 6 men did, and most of them walked away free. The federal government never caught them because the federal government never understood them. They built a financial system inside a country that refused to serve them. They paid off police officers that other members of the police did not even know were being paid. They laundered money through department stores, jazz clubs, baseball teams, and boxing gyms. They died rich in Mexico, in Detroit, in Pittsburgh, in Chicago. Old age, natural causes, respected community members. That is how you beat the system. You use the system's own blind spots against it. These 6 men did, and their names should be said out loud. If you learned something new today, hit that like button. Hit subscribe for more stories the history books refuse to tell. Drop a comment below and tell me which one of these 6 shocked you the most. Part 3 is coming. Stay ready.